right, here we are in Photoshop. Our fish is looking pretty good, but we want to make him look great. What are the two things we're going to focus on again are in the adjustment layers. We're going to focus on only using brightness contrast and hue saturation. With just those two in Photoshop for our learning as we go along through these tutorials, we can make a huge difference with just that much. So we're just going to focus on that. But in this episode, we're going to add one more twist. So let's go to brightness and contrast. What do we want to change here? Overall, pretty good, but the one thing we want to change is we want the background to be black. All right. To do that, there's a million ways you can do that in Photoshop, but let's just stick to using our brightness and contrast. And let's bring that slider down, only looking at the background until the background is basically black. All right. And you'll remember last time, adding a little contrast helps in there too. There we go. All right, that's great, but the fish looks horrible. So everything is showing through. Instead of making this black and then painting white to have it show through, I'm going to paint white. So on paintbrush, white, right bracket to make it a little bigger, to just work in the area I want to show because it's less. It's only in here. So I'm going to start hitting this. Oops. Change this. I'm going to color it black. I'm only going to hit this where I want it to not show. All right. Working with a right bracket, left bracket to make it bigger. And we're just focusing in a small area here. What you have to be careful of, though, is overspray. What do I mean by that? Okay, if you're working with a big old brush like this, watch down here. Okay, it gets out into here. I call it overspray. So we'll go big here. And now I'm getting into the background. It's going to create a halo effect. So when I'm done, what I can do is, this looks pretty good. I'm going to switch this or hit the X key and go back to white. Left bracket to make my brush smaller. And I'm going to paint white just to cover up where the overspray was. This is extremely subtle, but it's all about subtle in Photoshop. All right, so here's our change. You can see a big change along the edges, okay? And that's good. All right, so there's our brightness contrast. Let's do the hue saturation. Click Adjustments, Hue Saturation. Here we go. Looking at this picture, there's obviously one spectrum we need to work on, and that is in the cyan spectrum. And I'm just going to go cyan. Okay. I don't like, that is such a distracting color. This light blue in here really distracts. Now we can try to change it, go kind of all evil here, whatever we want to do. Let's do that. But what I really want to do is I want to get rid of it because this fish is white. So I'm going to reduce the saturation. You go too much and you start losing it, but you want to bring it down here, come back up and tweak this again to get it where you want it. And these are shadows. By nature, shadows are dark. So my lightness, I always like, if I'm working in shadows, to push the shadows down. All right, cool. Now, with that fixed and the cyan shadows gone, we're left with some green. There's always a little green shadows too, and there's usually a little bit of yellow. So I'm going to change it, we're going to work in green. And here you can see that's all the green. If I push it all the way up, I like doing that to see. And we're just going to reduce the saturation of the green. And what we want to do, we'll reduce the lightness a little bit, and we'll tweak the color balancing of it, warm it up a little bit. All right, so now we have originally this very bluish shadowed fish, and in the end, we have the focus where we want it. All right, so I said we were going to do a couple different things on this one. Here's what we're going to do this time around. We are going to add a different kind of adjustment layer. We are going to go to Vibrance, this little triangle here. Click that. Vibrance and saturation, just like in Lightroom. Same rules apply. But what I want to do is I'm going to reduce the saturation, which I normally don't do, of the whole image. You can see now we're losing the color. But I don't want to touch the eye. I want to make this eye really stand out. So my paintbrush here, I'm in white. I'm going to click and change that to black. And with my brush right here, you can see I've got my mask. I'm going to click here and put a black splotch over the eye. So now the eye has not changed. If we come into here, you can see no matter what we do, that black area, that little dot there, doesn't change. So we're going to bring that down kind of like that. And we're going to, let's see, what do we want to do next? Let's go kind of the reverse of this. So I want to do an adjustment. I want to do the vibrance, but I want to add some color to the eye, right? I want to make that stand out and push the vibrance up on it. Now that we've made the whole fish, it doesn't make a big difference because there's not much color to work with. And so, but for this, yeah, we'll just, you know what, let's just do this. I'm going to paint. We can just paint everything black and it all goes away. You can see I just painted it black, whatever. You can also do the fill. You can also hit Control I, which is invert. All right, well, we painted it black, but we only want the white to show through. So, all right, there we go. But this yellow eye here is kind of funny looking. Let's go Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and let's work in the yellows. Make sure we're there. Oh yeah. But I want to make the yellows, I'll make it a different color. All right, I mean, it's a little overdoing it there. But I want to, actually I do want to push it into the blues. Or we can go into the real yellows there. Let's do this. All right, that's too much, right? It's an overdone kind of Photoshop effect, right? It's very yellow, and we're going to even push the saturation up on it just to make an example here. And we'll make it a little darker. All right, that's pretty cool. But what you can do here is there's a thing here called opacity, and that is how much of the layer is showing through. We can reduce that to make it, we'll reduce that, and it changes how much of that layer kicks in. Again, these are all about subtle effects. So now we've made the eye a little bit more yellow, but only at 54%. You can just click here, type it in, and hit enter, and it changes. Okay. We're going to now add another adjustment layer that we have not used before, and that's the photo filter. This is just your basic photo filters. This is a warming filter 85. This is the most commonly used one. This works well for underwater shots because it is opposite that cyan on the color wheel. Just warm it up a little bit there, not much. Now in the image here, you can see we want, again, the focus to be here. We still have, the fins are kind of cool, yeah, whatever. I'm going to click this little plus. Now I have this blank layer. I'm going to use black. I'm going to make a big brush, right bracket. I'm going to Control minus to zoom out. All right, this is the most destructive kind of layer you could do. I'm just painting black, okay? And see how the overspray goes in there. I want to work back here, okay? Knock some of this down. I don't want to get rid of it all because then that looks wrong and it catches the eye as being poorly photoshopped. All right, there we go. Now the focus is right here on the face, but we haven't completely wiped everything else out. So in this case, we have used brightness. We've used the hue saturation, both from the previous tutorial. But now we've moved into the vibrance button, all here in the adjustments, the vibrance little triangle. Did another hue saturation. Added a little warming filter, which is nice, and then painted some black. So in the end, I'm going to group all these together so I can show you. What have we done? We started with that, and we ended with that. Pretty cool. All right, let's do another one.